You guys are all done.
Thank you. Catherine, can I just send this to you?
You can email it to me.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry about that. So just talk into this thing here.
Yeah, you want to put it, attach it. I've got mine here and I.
Oh, we each have, okay. Oh, great, okay. Oh. This is so high tech, which I know it's not really, but
All right, so you are able to click that. Yours is, and you just do.
thank you. Sorry for.
I think you need to share screen when it's. I mean,
Okay, all right, good. All right. Take my mask off. Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming today. I'm Sarah Wiseman, and I'm presenting today with Catherine Johns-Maston. And I will start us off. So we are, let's see if I can share the screen. Can everyone see the screen and hear me?
Yes.
Yes, okay, great. I will go into, oh, where's present mode? Thank you. Okay, so welcome. Today, we're talking about the state of library resources, and we're going to demystify library resource selection, review, and budget. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is library budget and resource funding. So the library budget consists of multiple different parts. There's, of course, the personnel budget, which we're not going to be talking about today. That has both full-time, part-time students. So that's not the topic that we're talking about today. Then there's the other than personnel service, which has, we have two accounts for the library. One is the library administration account, and the other is the library acquisitions account or budget. We also have some shared library services and resources that are paid separately out of another campus fund. We're not really going to talk about those today either. And then we also have some grant money that we get from New York State through the Coordinated Collection Development Aid Program. So I will talk about that a little bit as well. Okay, so the library administration budget is used for a variety of things. And so apologies for lots of text on this screen, but the library administration budget is used for, okay, so services and tools to facilitate access to content and facilitate provision of services. So for example, our research guides, the system that runs the research guides, the calendaring system, resource sharing software and services, cataloging subscriptions, etc. That actually takes up a lot of the budget, and I don't have numbers in this in the slides about the admin budget, but the admin budget right now is 137,500, 137. Oh my gosh, I'm tongue-tied today. 137.5 is the library admin budget. Okay, and so a very large proportion of that goes to these services and tools that facilitate access. So the remainder of the money that's available in the library admin budget goes to departmental supplies, so pens, paper, etc., professional development, programming expenses, which for us generally becomes up to be snacks for student events like research parties and Penfield Loves You Day, etc. Equipment, our staff computers, we do pay for those out of the library budget. And also any circulating equipment that we loan to patrons, that comes out of the library admin budget as well. Finally, another big category that comes out of that budget is building improvements. So the recent examples that some of you may be aware of are the wheelchair accessible study rooms, the creation of staff offices in the technical services area, carpet for the 24-hour room, network cabling for the video camera in the cafe that's going to go in and enable that space to be 24 hours. So things that you may or may not expect would be coming out of the library admin budget, that's what comes out of that budget. Okay, so the library acquisitions budget, on the other hand, is all of the library materials, and that is content. And that's regardless of format, whether it's physical or electronic. And so that includes the research databases, which would be divided into the searchable periodical indexes and also full text periodical article databases. The periodicals, and that's differentiated from research databases in that those are the individual subscriptions. Now, in this day and age, that's both print and electronic. In the olden times, so even 10 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, all of that would have been print. But now it's print and electronic, but it's individual subscriptions to those titles. Then we also purchase from the library acquisitions budget books, again, in whatever format, print or electronic, videos, physical and streaming, microforms, which make up a inconsequential amount of purchases at this point, and then reference resources, as well as, a variety of other things. But it's the library acquisitions budget is all about content. Okay, so here's a shot of our library acquisitions budget 2018 to 2023. As you can see, 18, 19, 19, 20, the library acquisitions budget was $450,000. And then we had the 25% reduction due to COVID and resulting enrollment losses. And that hit us in 2020, 21, and that has not been restored. So one thing just to note about the library acquisitions budget in general, which is also true of the library admin budget, is that pretty much it's steady over time once it's set. We don't generally get, well, we pretty much never get increases for inflation. And so I don't know if you're touching on that later, Catherine. No. Okay, so she's nodding no. So the reason I ask about that is when the budget does not adjust for inflation, our purchasing power goes down. And it's the same is true in your household budget as you're purchasing things. If you don't have a, prices go up. And so that is also true for library resources and library databases. Like the general rule of thumb is that database prices go up like 3 to 5% each year is it's the average increase for databases each year. So clearly our purchasing power goes down over time when our budget stays flat. There are no plans at this point to increase the library budget, but I keep asking, so. Okay, so I mentioned before, New York State Coordinated Collection Development Aid. So this is an annual grant to academic institutions in New York State. The intent of this grant is to enhance collections to further resource sharing in New York State. So therefore, materials purchased with those funds must be able to be shared. Now, some of you are aware of the impact, now it's university impact collections grants that we have given out to faculty and staff each year for the last many, many years. We use our grant money, the New York State Coordinated Collection Development grant money, to fund those purchases. And so that's why when you see the application come around, you'll see that we have some limitations on the formats of what we can buy. And it's because we're using funds from this grant to purchase those, to fund that internal grant program. So this grant does require that the institution shows maintenance of effort in terms of maintaining a commitment to providing us with our acquisitions budget. It's calculated by formula, which is based on FTE. And so what that has translated into for us recently is about $11,000 per year. And I've got a link for more information if you're curious to read more about it. There also are links from that page to all of the allocations of academic institutions in this state, if you're curious about that. So if you want to see like our exact amount or how it compares to what Colgate got or Syracuse University got, you can see that as well. Okay, so now here we've got a snapshot of 2021, 2022, the library's acquisitions budget, how we spent it by category. Okay, so you can see that the dark blue, that is the databases. So that's a very large percentage of what we spent our money on in 2021, 22. Ebooks are the orange slice. Periodical subscriptions, and again, remember that's both print and electronic, is gray. Yellow is what we spent on one-time purchases, print and electronic. And then the lighter blue is what we spent on streaming. And this is 2021, 2022. Just again, a snapshot. Okay, so one-time versus recurring expenses. So we're buying more and more electronic content, and we do that for a variety of reasons. You know, one is to meet the needs of our remote students and faculty, as we have more and more online courses, but also students and faculty who are at the Syracuse campus, for example. There's also convenience and availability factors in that. So students and faculty can access electronic materials anytime and anywhere. They can't do that with a print material. They have to come to the library for print material. Electronic materials are keyword searchable. When you're searching in an ebook, you can search every word within that ebook, within the ebook platform. You cannot do that with a print book. We librarians, or I'll just speak for myself, I love using, a print book index, but not everyone does. We'll just say probably our students less so. And again, you have to be here in person to use that in any case. We're also able to, for availability, we're able to buy packages of ebooks or packages of periodical titles, and that results in a lot of cost savings by being able to buy those packages. So that gets to the kind of convenience factor. And then availability, some material is only available in electronic format. So some of the periodicals now are not issuing print anymore. So it's not even an option to buy it in print. But the problem here is that most electronic content is licensed as opposed to purchased. So we license it on an annual basis, and it's a recurring cost. Okay, so that's something to be aware of. That's a big issue here. And the majority of the library resource budget is committed to ongoing resources. So this next chart here shows you our one-time versus recurring expenses. So orange, this is again using 2021, 22 as an example. Orange shows the databases, periodicals, streaming, everything that is a recurring expense. And the funds available for one-time purchases, in this chart, I actually added in the grant funding. So what this translates into is about $22,000 in the blue slice of what we have for one-time purchases when faculty, staff make a request for purchases. Okay, so that's what I've got. And now we're going to switch over to Catherine to talk about how you request these things and some other issues there. Oh, let's see. I take this off or leave it on.
They can hear you if you talk, so.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Technical problem. Yeah. So everyone should see something in the state of library region. Okay, so I may go over just a little bit about the budget that Sarah just talked about too. So I also have a slide on the library acquisitions budget for the same time frame that Sarah did. I got a little more fancy and a little less specific at the same time. So I'm kind of giving you the percentages. So it's the same data, but kind of in a different way. So as you can see, at least 70%, well, most of the budget is spent on journals and databases. So those are recurring costs that come up every year. I'm going to talk a little bit more about them as I kind of go through this list of other things. So as Sarah was saying, books are a one-time purchase, whether they're an ebook or a print book. They're coming from that 10% of the budget, as well as media, which is another thing that people purchase. If it's a one-time purchase, it's a DVD usually. Multi-year and subscription, they come through their streaming media. Streaming media tends to be preferred because of the way we can share those in online classes. We can just share them with students, share the link. The physical DVD, obviously they have to have a DVD player. They have to come to the library and use a DVD player here. The classrooms, usually you can play a DVD, so faculty sometimes will use those when we have no other option to get a video. Also, I mentioned textbooks because we do purchase those sometimes. Again, just really things that makes it a little more difficult with a budget that's this small for purchasing each year, $22,000. It's not a lot, and it doesn't go very far, especially with the cost of textbooks, as everybody knows. So journals, their annual subscriptions, these are mainly at this point online, but there are a handful that we're still getting in print format. Just because some of the vendors or some of the publishers haven't moved to online, which I know sounds a little odd in 2023, but there are a few holdouts that only have their materials available in print, or there's a preference from a department. So I'm going to pick on the art department, but not in a bad way. So the art department, they prefer to have the printed journals serials because you get a better, you can see the color better than online, and it's just a little bit easier for their students to use. So we do get a few of those still. They are reviewed. These journals that we get, this 25% of the budget, are reviewed each year to determine, are they being used still? The print ones as well as the online, and then we look at those. We look at what requests we're receiving from faculty for new things as well, and we usually do that in the spring. And I put in here the purchased in the next fiscal year because each year the journals it's an annual subscription, just like if you got Time magazine at home, and they come due usually in January. So our fiscal year obviously runs July through June, so they renew right now pretty much. So when we get a request, we review in the spring to purchase in the next fiscal year. That's true of the databases as well. If we decide to do an in-depth review, maybe we review everything to try to see what's the usage. Those are again annual contracts. Couple things about that though. So the money for those come from the library budget, which you can see in this graphic, but they also come from something called Novel New York and SUNY Connect. So Novel New York is a New York resources for everyone in the state, so everyone has access to these. So we make these available through our databases on the webpage, and through many ways on the webpage to our students and users, and also something called SUNY Connect. So it's SUNY-wide electronic libraries. So there's a couple other resources we're using to pay for those databases, but they do take the bulk of the budget. I've added the CCDA grant, which Sarah mentioned and gave very many details about. So I put that in here as a percentage of the budget. And you can also see, yes, that Sarah's graphic showed 90% of the budget pretty much is already spent. It's going to ongoing things that we purchased and have contracts. So now that I've told you all these things about, you want to, and you, sorry, too early in the morning, no problem. So now that I've told you a little bit about the resources and what we're spending the money on, how do you go about requesting? So many of you have probably seen this form before. I'm going to go out to the page though. There is a link to this purchasing request for Penfield Library. And we ask many questions in here that are very helpful for us when we're determining whether or not how we're going to go about purchasing this. Things like, what is the course it's going to be taught for? Is it 100% online? 100% online? Probably we're not going to buy print books for it. We're going to look for some ebooks or things like that. You put in the titles you're requesting. As much information as you have about the title, it helps us to locate the correct one, and it cuts down on us having to go back and forth in multiple emails trying to figure out exactly to make sure we're purchasing the right thing. We ask what semesters they're needed for. Is the course required for your major? Is it general education credit? These things make a difference when we're making a decision, when we're comparing different things and trying to weigh which one we're going to purchase. Critical to students, how many students are in your course? Would you put it on reserve? And then you submit it. These requests go directly to our acquisitions folks and to me. So we review them, we get back to you and let you know what's going on, whether we're purchasing or not. Hold on. All right. Hold on, guys. Sorry, this always happens to me. Okay, yay, we're back. Okay. So now we're back from seeing the request form. So just some things to know about when you're requesting. As we talked about the different things that we do purchase, I was mentioning a little bit about journals and databases, but just so you have an idea of what happens. So you send that request in and we say, yes, we're gonna fill that request for you. So we require up to a week to review for purchase. That's just depending on when you're putting in the request. If it's the weekend, if we're not working on the weekend, it usually doesn't take us a week to review. So, but we put that there just in case. So books, usually when we order a book, it arrives within 1 to 2 weeks at most. It really depends on shipping, it depends on weather, all those fun things. Anything we buy that are online, so an ebook that we purchase, it's usually available within a couple days. So if you ask for that and you wanted to, add it to your course, your guide or your Brightspace, a link to it, we'd be able to provide that to you usually in a few days, if not 24 hours. Media is sort of the same. The DVD arrives usually in a week if we're physically ordering it from someone. It does depend on the vendor. If it's an international film, it may take longer if we're having to order it from like the UK or someplace like that. And it does have to come through customs and come into the US. We'll talk a little bit more about foreign international films and some of those things in a minute. So streaming online, I put a few days, but usually have it the same day sometimes. It really just depends when you're ordering it. If you order it on a Sunday, we probably won't get it until Monday or Tuesday. So just so you're aware of that. As I mentioned before, the journals and the databases, they're quite different and are handled quite different. You can put that purchase request in through this form. And you're going to probably get something back from us that says, oh, I need to know a little bit more information about this. Can you tell me a little bit more? Because our budget in that area is pretty much spent each year, we need more time to determine whether we can or cannot purchase that. And I kind of put in here also, they're purchasing January or July for journals. It just depends. We usually like to have our subscriptions on an annual basis, but sometimes we do have a few that are not annual. They're on a fiscal or their school year, mostly because that's how the publisher is publishing them. So that's kind of how we have to pay for them. And as I said before, the databases, there's multiple factors we have to consider when deciding on a potential new database. In most cases, we would have to consider canceling another database to be able to free up some money to be able to buy something new. So there's always this weights and measures. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment, but we're always trying to weigh what's the best option for everyone and try to at least make sure everybody has some resources for their subject area. That's a little bit, let's see each other. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so review criteria. So we get your request in. What are we thinking about? What are we looking at in those so that you kind of have an idea of what are the things that we think about? So we think about the type of material requested, which we just talked about. So the type of material will determine how quickly we're going to get something or in what our response will be. So a journal would be quite different from just a book that you would like to have. New versus older materials, we do get requests for older materials. There are some older math books and other things that are valuable that we may not have in our collection, but as a new course starts or there's something like that going on, we may have some requests for some older materials. In most cases, we purchase new. We want the newest things, maybe within the last 3 years, maybe 4 at most. So we do purchase older things. We just may ask you a few more questions if you order something. Yeah. And print versus electronic, we do still get maybe half our ebooks and half our printed books that go up into the stacks. We lean a little more toward electronic now because we have more online classes. And students seem to use those more than coming and going into the stacks. But we do look at that as a factor. And then single versus multiple copies. So if we buy an ebook, it can be borrowed by one person at a time, similar to how we would have someone would come and check out a book and the book's checked out, that person has it and nobody else can access it. So sometimes for the ebooks we'll purchase what I would call multiple copies or multiple users. It is possible to have, everybody can use it. 3 users, 1 user. So there's multiple options we can use to make things accessible, and we think about how many people might be using this, how many people might use it at the same time. New course and program proposals. In the new course program proposal for there's a section for library resource requests. It's always been there, but we're trying to get people to utilize it more. So we have seen some increases in that where people are sending in questions and saying, how much do these resources cost? Is $2,000 going to be enough to cover all these journals I'd like? And so we're giving feedback and helping to determine that. So do feel free to reach out if you're putting together a new course or program proposal. We're more than happy to help guide you, tell you what we already have. Maybe there's some things that will that we already have that you can use, and maybe there's some things we could look into purchasing. So costs, as Sarah mentioned, there's recurring and one time, so we look at that. Other things we've started looking at a little bit more, gaps in our collections or subject areas. So we'll look to see, so you're requesting 2 or 3 books in this area. Do we have anything in the stacks already? Do we need to maybe purchase a few more things in this area because it's a gap in our collection, or it's a place that we need to do a little more evaluating and determining what's there. I also talked about current, and that's kind of leads into current collection. So what's in the current collection already? Sometimes there are videos that are already available that are on the subject you want, but they're not exactly the title you want. So there may be other things in the collection that you'll find just by kind of looking a little bit more into some of the collections. And so this is my last slide, but I just want to say, put a plug in for that university impact collection grant. It's up to $500. It's awarded to faculty and professional staff each spring. So very soon we will be putting out sending out requests for people. Hey, do you want to apply for this grant? You'll see those very soon, probably within the next month. And what those are, they're for purchasing materials to support professional development, scholarly activity, program and course curriculum needs, or places where you see a lack in the collection or a lack in resources and would like to purchase, and to assist with student success. So please do apply for that. And then just some future things. just so you're aware, we have a collection management policy, which we are reviewing at this moment, adding, putting more details, in, so that will be coming out soon, this semester, I would say. Also, we're seeking, student suggestions for purchases, so we have a few different things we're gonna try to do to get students to give us some feedback, you know, are there some young adult books they would like, or do they, you know, want, books about finance, books about taking the GRE or things like that, so that we can get some feedback from them, specifically our users, to find out what things they are interested in or would like us to purchase. And at this point, we have as you heard, we have a very small budget. And so we're trying to determine the best ways going forward with a resource review to determine, are there any gaps, are there places that we don't have resources, and try to maybe rearrange or redeploy our budget in different ways to meet those needs. And so we're working on that. That should be coming out later this spring as well, if not early summer, as we plan for the next fiscal year. So we're trying to determine what we currently have available in the per subject or per department, and then trying to balance the needs of all the different areas across the. And that's my last slide. That was a little quicker than we thought, but if anyone has any questions, I'm going to stop the share. You can ask any questions of Sarah or I. She's here as well.
So hopefully they hear me through that mic. So can you just speak a little bit about the collection management policy? I'm not totally sure what that consists of. Just, I know you're working towards a new one, but I just was wondering what.
Yeah, so she asked about the collection management policy and what that is. So what that is we have a policy like this is what we're going to purchase, who's going to do what. So what are the librarians going to do, when are they going to do it, how are they going to get feedback from faculty, what kind of resources we purchase and what kind of resources we would not. So like I would say, like National Geographic, we're not purchasing that, and there's some other things that we would say we're not going to really purchase in that area. We don't heavily purchase textbooks. We do purchase them, but it's not our main focus. So it also would talk about anything to do with the collection. So if we're deciding to deselect or weed from the collection, that would be in that, as well as like our diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility statements. So it's a big document. So we have two versions that we're going to be putting forth, so that there's a kind of an executive version and then the full version. You'll have access to both, but we'll try to make it a little easier, just have a short one.
I'll add a couple of details. The collection management policy serves as a tool for the librarians as well as an information document for everyone else. And as Catherine was saying, like the long version gets into a lot of nitty-gritty detail. But one example would be, like Catherine mentioned before, multiple copies. So in earlier days in libraries, some libraries would buy multiple copies of every print book. And so one statement that we are likely to have, if we don't already have in the current policy, will be a statement that says, we will not be purchasing multiple copies of books, of print books, for example. Another statement that is in the collection management policy talks about like, what is the scope and purpose of the collection? So for example, this is not going to be the way it's worded probably in the document, but like our collection is for, the purpose of our collection is to support the current programs and course offerings of the institution. That's in comparison to a research library where their scope might be to maintain the record of, of all resources throughout time, whereas like that's not our scope. And so we use the collection management policy to kind of frame what is the purpose of the collection? And so it's a living document also that changes over time too. But anyway, those are just a couple more details. It's a very useful document. It's probably not the reading that everybody wants to do, but like I said, it's a living document and it's a tool for us as well as a very informative document for faculty, staff, patrons.
Thank you. We did have another one. Nobody else.
Oh, good. Jessica's another question.
So you talked a lot about kind of the pie graph and the sliver of what you can do for new like purchases and print and things like that. And you went over the criteria, you know, of how you go about that. In general, I don't know if you have any numbers or anything like that, but how many do you usually approve per year? Is there, you know, a lot that do get rejected, or is it something that you're really flexible with, or just kind of an idea of how that works? Because I know you said a lot of times there may be something that comes through and there's other resources that could be used for that. So I was wondering, you know, how many new in print, because I know there's a small slice of what is available. So.
Do you want me to?
Well, I will say that I'm relatively new in this position, so I am learning. And I kind of started mid-budget year, so I'm learning on this. But I think a lot of the time we try to weigh, using those criteria, weigh how many students, what the cost is. And in most cases, I would say in most cases, we purchase something, if not everything. We do try to purchase what faculty request, because you know you're teaching the course, you found this resource and you know.
Yeah, I'll add to that. So I was in the kind of the interim collection manager role before Catherine has taken on this role, which I'm so happy for. Thank you, Catherine. She's going to be great in the role. So I don't have any numbers for you of how many things we purchased last year, but what I can tell you are some broad strokes in that. Book requests are easy, right? So we can it's very easy for us to say, oh yes, we'll purchase that book for you, usually in print or electronic form. So those are easy to do. The trickiest ones are journals, journals and databases, because they're so expensive. And so one example is one portion of a department requested 4 additional journals this year that when I ran the pricing on it, they came to $45,000 a year. So we don't have a spare $45,000 to go for one half of a department, wasn't even journals for the whole department. We don't have that money. So the journal requests are difficult, and those are going to get no's basically, or a not yet, because we, as Catherine was saying, we really will have to go back to see what the other resources we are, that again, the recurring costs that are already committed, and see what we can take away to then replace, to purchase new ones with. So those are difficult. Similarly, new database subscriptions are also really difficult to say yes to, because we've got all these databases that we're committed to already. So that would be, again, a situation where we're going to have to swap something. So those are hard. The ones that kind of fall in between the easy and the really hard are the streaming media. And we have another session coming up at 10 o'clock that goes in depth on the streaming media. But the challenge with the streaming media, again, is if it does not come in our academic video online program, where we pay an annual subscription fee for unlimited access to all of the titles. If it's not in there, if we have to get it through like a Canopy, it's $150 per title per year. And so that may not sound like a huge amount, but then if one instructor wants 4 titles for a class of 10 people, okay, so that gets expensive. That's a lot of money for that one class. And then what happens next year? Are they going to want to use it again next year? Probably. So that's a tricky situation. So that's it's these questions, and this is why we wanted to have this session to talk about, to really present what are the realities that we're dealing with the library budget? It's never going to be a situation where we don't want to provide you with what you need. We want to provide you with what we need, what you need. We just may not be able to. So that's a very long answer to your question of like, do you have numbers? But no numbers, but there's some
Yeah,
shedding the light, pulling back the curtain.
that's good. Thank you.
Other questions from our Zoom participants?
Don't see any further chat.
Maybe none. All right, well, I hope that everyone should please feel free to contact us later if you have other questions that you think of later or that you just want to talk to us separately about. And we thank you for coming to this session today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.